Hello and welcome to the Ryan Mack Show. I am your host, Ryan Mack. Man, oh man, it's been a while since I've gone live. I mean, I went live the other night with DPB, but my very own live to start the year is officially tonight. And I haven't really done one on the border yet. And I feel like I owe it to you guys to talk about the border because it is a crisis and it's turning into a constitutional crisis if we don't do anything about it. Now, since the Biden administration took office, I don't know how to put it into words, but here is a list of problems at the border by number that I put together that I found. It's staggering the amount of people that are coming into this country unchecked. Now, apprehensions, there's a good 8.5 to 10 million, but there could be close to 15 million, the real numbers, because not every migrant is recorded or known to have been in custody. So there's the gotaways that have not been brought to the details. So here we go, right off the bat. 8.5 million crossing the border. 1.5, roughly 1.7 million gotaways. Lethal fentanyl entering the country, 25 tons. Now, if you know this, you probably could guess about a finger dust size of fentanyl can kill about a whole city. So that puts into perspective the numbers. 25 tons of fentanyl coming across the border since 2020 when Biden took office. 267 terror suspects encountered. That's just encountered. Now, do we know for sure how many children, how many men, how many women total are coming here? We don't. We have a rough estimate, but the Biden administration and Democrats in general will sit there all day long and tell you that the border is secure. The border is closed. Numbers have gone down. But have they? There's 8.5 million reasons as to why. And I'm going to get into a lot of those issues tonight. But first, on a related issue, because I feel like this relates to the overall narrative the Democrats have on their goal, their agenda, their ideology as a whole. With the border issue, more immigrants, more illegals coming across means more Democrat voters in theory, right? Makes sense. But we're the ones, according to Democrats, who are opposing the replacement theory. That's never been the case. It is Democrats that want to flood this country with as many illegals as possible so that they can get their vote. Overrun the white population, you'll have permanent Democrat voters. The problem is, overwhelming majority so far, at least legally that are here, are voting Republican. That remains to be the case, except for Democrat stronghold cities, of course, where they're giving out voter ID cards to illegals like candy or fentanyl. So, when you hear them say the border is closed, I've got receipts. I bring receipts. Here is a clip of them telling you the border is closed. Get ready to have your mind blown. And then we'll get into the...
It is my testimony that the border is secure.
The president has worked very hard to implement a strategy when it comes to the border that is humane, safe, and has orderly enforcement.
Things are going at the border, sir.
Much better than you all expected.
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration.
We have responded with a model approach that has proven to work.
We have taken unprecedented action over the past year and a half to secure our border.
And we have a process in place to manage migrants at the border. We're working to make sure it's safe and orderly and humane.
The border is closed.
We agree that the border is secure.
We're executing a comprehensive strategy to secure our borders.
One of our highest priorities is to ensure that we have a secure border, and that is what we are doing.
We are stopping the flow at the border.
The border is secure.
Seems secure to me. They just told you right there. But is it secure? What is their overall message? Well, my message is no border, no country. You can't have a sovereign nation without a border. Yes, it's true that a wall won't keep everybody out, but it's a great start. You have to have not only a barrier, you have to have the technology in place, you have to have the Border Patrol agency in place and give them the resources they need to stop illegal activity such as drugs and human trafficking at the border. Will it stop every encounter? Probably not. They're going to find ways, tunnels, jumping over the border. They're going to find rivers. They're going to cross through some kind of barrier that has been breached. They will find a way. But their message, if you notice from the compilation there, the border's secure. Though we know with our own two eyes it's not. Why is their message shaped in a way that they try to persuade you? Their overall goal is the destruction of the United States of America as we know it. Partly because they hate you. They hate everyone that likes the idea of freedom. They experimented with the freedom removal during COVID. They've been doing it for a number of years before that. There's different laws in place that they have pushed over the years to suggest that we can just take a little bit at a time, and they'll never notice. Eventually, you're going to have zero freedoms, and you're not going to have anything to own, and you're going to like it. Where have I heard that before? Oh, the WEF, of course. But their goal, their agenda, when they say things, they really mean the opposite. So here's another narrative, and I pulled this from the Federalist. Do you remember when they started tackling the statues? Because they were racist, and they weren't really inclusive. Except for the fact that most of the statues they brought down were prominent Democrat leaders in the South that were championed as heroes at the time. So if they're going to preach inclusivity and that their past is racist as a country, they might want to take a look at their own party. The Democrat Party was founded on the very idea that blacks shouldn't have any rights, that they shouldn't be able to vote, that women shouldn't be able to have rights either. The Democrats don't like people, and they don't like the free people. Denver used to be that way, but they have found a new way to continue to put us back in slavery. So, is the Democrat toppling of statues really just the surface level of taking down a statue that they seem inappropriate? Well, according to the opinion piece that I pulled, it's more of a way to go after actual people. If they can tear down a statue, they can go after you for your beliefs and your ideology. So, there was a tentative planning of a removal of a statue at Federal Park in Philadelphia, which commemorates the founding of Pennsylvania. The purpose of the removal was to provide a more welcoming, accurate, and inclusive experience for visitors. Shouldn't come as a surprise. You want to be welcoming as a city, but your founding purpose and statue commemorating that, it should be your face of your city, right? Good or bad, that's part of your history's past. You can't erase the history just by removing a statue. But once the removals and destruction of Confederate statues and memorials began a few years ago, according to this piece, it's ultimately inevitable that all the historical figures from America's past, even with zero connection from the Confederacy, will be subject to removal. Because once they have a goal of, oh, it's just the Confederate ones, that gives them an inch. They'll take a mile. Then they'll say, well, we're taking down this white hero in the South because we thought he did a bad thing. Well, then they'll take down the next statue. They'll take down an Ernie Banks statue in Chicago, even though he played for the Cubs and he was a prominent player back in his day. He was beloved as a Chicago Cub. When you think of the Cubs, you think of Ernie Banks. You think of Ron Santo, Fergie Jenkins. You think of prominent black players in that generation. Are they going to tear down those statues because it's offensive to the players that played? No. Their overall theme is to do more. Come after you and I. So Monday evening, amid the public outrage that ensued when the governor of Pennsylvania announced that he would intervene and the statue would remain where it is. Now, Shapiro is a Democrat. Remember that. So maybe this is an effort that Democrats aren't as crazy as they are. Fat chance. the radicals have still taken part of the party. They've taken a stronghold, and we've seen that throughout the course of the last few years getting worse. So, the National Park Service planned to do this as part of the rehabilitation of Philly's Welcome Park, named after Welcome, which Penn took to Philadelphia in 1682. So they're going to revision it and tell you that it's because we want to be less offensive. Because William Penn, after all, was a white man. White man bad, we have to remove it. It doesn't matter that the same year he revived, Penn signed a treaty with Lenape, or the Delaware people, that it lasted 75 years, that he went to great lengths to ensure Native Americans were treated well and fairly and paid fairly for their land. He did great things, but because he's white, he's terrible to Democrats. That's where this message is. They will tear down a statue, and that message is, we're coming for you because we don't like you. That's where we're at today. Now, how that relates to the border. So, this border issue has gotten to a point where under Trump, his worst year was roughly 859,000. Okay, pretty bad, pretty large number. But in total, his 4 years, 2 million. 2 million over 4 years, roughly. If you add the math up, pretty close. Trump's worst year doesn't even come up to half of the Biden administration this last year alone. 2023, 3.2 million border crossings that we know of. We have no idea how many more are coming across beyond that. Like I said earlier, it could be close to 15 total. It could be double that because we have so many more people that are unaccounted for. But like I said, what is the messaging between the two? Are they tearing down statues just for the fun of it? They want you to think the border is closed because they don't want you to know their real plan, except that we know their real plan. They want to change the demographic of the country so that they can make it how they envision, not how the America was when it was founded on freedom and we are a constitutional republic. Our founders will be rolling over in their graves if they found the destruction that is taking place. But that doesn't stop. That doesn't stop local leaders from going further. Now they're not even hiding their plans. Here is Karine Jean-Pierre, perhaps the single dumbest communications person in our lifetime, if not ever, of any administration. She is talking about a decrease in numbers, and I can't make this up. During one of these press conferences, she was asked a question about how the numbers are looking on the border, and she goes on to spit for 19 seconds saying it's actually gone down. 3.2 million don't matter to her. Numbers don't matter. Here it is.
Okay. So we have seen results in the migration of migrants, right? We've seen a decrease because of the actions that President of Mexico has taken. And so, again, because of these diplomatic conversations, they have been effective. We see them as being effective.
What actions have the Biden administration taken? There's close to 10 million people and counting coming across the border. And she's going to sit there and spew from her soapbox that the numbers have actually decreased. They've more than quadrupled the numbers from the last 4 years total. And she has the audacity to sit there and say that the numbers have actually gone down because Biden is so great at the administration as a whole, at border, at economics, because you can afford everything at the grocery store. You can afford to keep your house. Okay. So, yes, please, one more time, can you tell us the truth that numbers are going down despite the numbers quadrupling as a whole? Nevertheless, this has also led to our border czar, who has never been to the border, despite having said multiple times she's going to the border. But she is so excited to take a recent trip to North Carolina middle schoolers and tell them, because they are too stupid to know what Air Force Two is. Yeah, again, who are these people running this country? You have to wonder. Another dumb, really, really stupid individual who only got her way because she was blowing everybody in Congress and in the world to get to where she is today. She has nothing on the merits. When the Biden administration came in, it was knee pads and pee pads. That literally is the slogan of the Biden team. Kamala Harris has done nothing to contribute anything to society. But here she is, the border czar, talking about being excited for middle schoolers.
Hi, Santa Claus! I am so happy to see all these young leaders. You know, I just got off the plane, it's called Air Force Two, from Washington, D.C. to come and visit with you all. Because I've been hearing about you. You all are so smart.
So smart. You don't know what a jet is, but I'm going to tell you. Remember when she said that Russia was a larger country in Europe and it was attacking a smaller country, and so basically that's bad? This is your border czar. That's who she is. Now, we know how bad the numbers are. We know what we see with our eyes. We see it every day on the news. You see hundreds of people miles long running through the border like it's wide open. And it really is. It really is wide open. And that's a problem. Because now the big cities that were once welcoming cities, they were sanctuary cities, have now said and changed their tune. Hey, wait, we're not a welcoming city anymore, but we're a sanctuary city. Yeah, but that's only when we say that you can have them in your city. Oh, you can have them in your city, just not my backyard. Remember Martha's Vineyard? When DeSantis flew them over there, Governor Abbott flew them to New York, Chicago, LA. He got them out of Texas because they were overrunning Texas cities. Small Texas towns about the size of Pekin, Illinois, about 30,000, maybe even 100,000, are simply overrun at the border now because you've got millions and millions and millions of people flying across the border. And mostly, they're not families. They're not families at all. They're military-aged men, single men, coming across, doing God knows what, drugs, maybe starting a militia for the Biden administration to take over. Who knows? The game goes on. But now that the sanctuary cities are no longer able to use their own resources, despite telling you and I that we have enough resources in their cities, I think it'd be a great idea, right? Here's another mass idiot. This is Governor Healy. You might know her, you might not, because you're from Middle America. Governor Healy is governor of Massachusetts, a prominent Democrat stronghold, but once a pretty good state in the founding, one of the first colonies to be discovered. Boston, a rich history for our country. The Boston Tea Party was a significant event that happened when we threw all the English tea in the harbor in response to the taxes. But nevertheless, here you have another Democrat, radical socialist leader suggesting it's okay. We have all the resources. Come one, come all. Governor Healy, in one sense, says we have all the resources. And in another sense, hey, wait a minute. We don't have enough resources, but why don't you offer up your house? Legally, she can't do that. But of course, she's going to try to do the humanitarian thing and say, why don't you just give them one of your rooms in your basement? It's fine. That's what these people think. They think that you are literally too stupid to know what's going on and that you'll just willingly open up your door to any stranger because, after all, the Second Amendment is violence only. And you don't need any guns to protect yourself. You can call the cops. But please, let these people in your homes. Would they let them in their homes? I bet you my entire life and all my savings, which is probably nothing anyway compared to these idiots, that they would never open up their doors to anybody who they deem unsafe. Why would they? I wouldn't expect them to. But yet we're peons to them, and we should open up our doors. So once again, you have leaders, Democrats, Marxist, socialists telling you how to live your life. Rules for thee, not for me. Here she is.
I think it's really important that cities and towns have the ability, have the exercise the prerogative to label themselves whatever they want to label themselves. And if they want to take on a sanctuary city designation, I think that's great. I think cities and towns are in the position to be able to do that. And I've seen it done as a value statement, as a statement of principles, and I think that's great. I support that.
As of today, close to 5,600 families with children are living in state-funded shelters, hotels, dorms, and other emergency facilities across Massachusetts. That figure is 80% higher than it was just 1 year ago, and it's unsustainable. For this reason, today I am declaring a state of emergency in Massachusetts.
State of emergency? Wait a minute. I thought they had enough resources to hold every one of these people in their community, but they don't. Now, it's not just her going off the deep end and telling you should open up your houses. They are now forcing students out of schools. Here's another one. Here's another story. Another one just rolling off the top. New York City, James Madison High School. Again, a school named after one of our founders who'd had a lot of influence on the beginning structure of what America should look like. Nevertheless, Democrats, they don't care. It's just a name. So it's a high school in New York and Brooklyn. This is according to New York Post. There is a weird story about it. I think they had some reports that there was an emergency, that they were going to close it at some point anyway. But nevertheless, you're taking 1,900 students to remote because the migrants in the area could not stay on the football field. A football field at the school, mind you, because inclement weather was coming, so we have to put them inside the school. So instead of students learning in person, Democrats would rather have 4,000 illegal immigrants in that school. Another sign, Democrats don't care about American citizens. They value nothing about your life. They will use you to get your vote and then dump you along the side of the road for illegals. Their city's giving them illegals voter ID, voter registration cards, driver's license, health care. Hell, they get a stipend for coming to Illinois. If you or I left, fled to Mexico, came back across the border, come back to Illinois, we might be lucky. If we erased all of our data, we could probably get $9,000 unannounced. That's what's happening at the border. Nevertheless, from your home to the schools, they will stop at nothing to remove you and place others. Where have I heard that before? Oh, the Great Replacement Theory. That's a Democrat term. They don't like Americans. That's how much they hate you. New York City, Brooklyn, James Madison High School, kicked out of the classroom. Local residents, of course, they're pissed off. Why wouldn't they be? Your kid's going to school in person and now they're remote. Not for a snow day, not because of COVID, but because of freaking illegal immigrants not supposed to be here in this country are taking over their schools. I know I'm preaching the choir, my audience, but how can you have people vote for this? If you have friends that are liberals or Democrats or socialists or Marxists, and they say, well, it's fine, that city can be a welcoming city, just not my backyard. How can you vote for this? No mainstream Democrat or any individual should be okay with this. Our local leaders, our national leaders have no clue how to run a country. They think they know better than everybody else because they look down on you. You have kids getting kicked out of schools in place of illegals. That's where we are as a country. It blows me away. It should make everybody just as pissed off. But really, what's the answer? We are almost seemingly helpless, right? Here's some more bad news. I don't have a clip for this, But only 142,000 ICE deportations. Despite in 2023, 3.2 million people coming across the border. So that checks out to, I don't know, the math. Nobody being deported, essentially. Do we even have a country at this point? No border, no country. It just keeps getting worse. But it doesn't stop there. From Governor Healy to New York Mayor Adams. He can't help himself. So this guy, prominent Democrat, okay, remember that because the city of New York, he's under control. He pushes migrants into the school, but that gets worse, okay, because this is how stupid Democrats are. They don't care. Now, Mayor Adams is looking into imposing a curfew at night because there are more crimes because the migrant crisis at the border. Oh, so now he wants to be reactive to the situation in which his city is overrun. He's imposing curfew at migrant shelters because they're overrun and panhandling and crimes are surging. This also from the New York Post. The Adams administration is weighing a plan to impose curfews. You can't make this up. Something we're looking into, Mayor Adams says. The issue was raised at the meeting in Queens, Councilwoman, who pointed out that a 10 p.m. curfew was already being enforced at the shelters across the city. Quote, she asked questions about the possibility of a curfew. I think it would be good because homeless people staying in shelters have curfews. If it's good enough for homeless people, New Yorkers, it's good enough for migrants. There's been an alarming increase in complaints from people living near the shelters that have sprung up across the city due to the overwhelming influx of migrants being shipped to the Big Apple from the southern border. Gee, it's like somebody could have seen this coming. Everybody on the right saw it coming. You have to close the border. You have to close the border. You have to close the border. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. When is it going to sink in to Democrats? To anybody in general? You can't have a country if you don't stop the flow of illegal activity coming across the borders. You might as well kiss America goodbye at this rate. But you have a Democrat in New York going, oh man, I was a welcoming city, but now I have to close my city and impose policies at a local homeless shelter because crime's happening. Who could have seen this coming? Everybody, close the damn border and you'll have a safer country. You'll have safer cities. New York, LA, Chicago are overrun. They are the 3 largest cities in our country, and they are now sending illegal immigrants by the busload downstate because their resources are strapped. What is that going to tell people about if your largest cities are now out of room? Coming to a small town near you, people, are you strapped? Are you ready to defend yourself? Because it's coming. Governor Pritzker, Illinois, it's coming. He's tried to ship migrants downstate. Several counties, including Grundy County and other counties up north, have implemented strict policies as to taxpayer money and bans and fines for hotels to not allow migrants being dropped off of their cities. It just happened recently in Dwight. They tried to shove off a bus on Dwight. Locally, it came down from the national issue for where Texas was being overrun. Okay. Now, since the governor of Texas, Abbott, says, you know what, my state's under control. I'm being overrun. And the Biden administration is doing nothing. He's taken it in his own hands. Now he's implementing state control of the Eagle Pass, Texas, where the federal government had control of. He kicked the federal government out of it. This is where we're at. States have to start taking control at the border because the Biden administration is too stupid to do their job. They are too incompetent. They instead worry about gender correction surgery for minors in states that aren't a border state because that's racist and sexist and bigoted for you to not let a 9-year-old change their gender. Meanwhile, at the border, men and women and children and families are being murdered and raped every day because these idiots don't know how to run a country. This is their priority. They would rather have men in dresses than stop the border. Simple as that. They don't care. It blows my mind. But here you go. Governor Pritzker. Oh, before I get into that, locally there was a McLean County. So I live in McLean County, Illinois. It's the center of the state. Bloomsdale is the county seat. Okay, it's 10-10 currently as the McLean County board. 10 Democrats, 10 Republicans. So this measure proposed by board Representative Chuck Erickson was unlikely to pass either way. Nevertheless, he presented it as a great starting point. It would have banned taxpayer money locally to even fund any of these issues should a bus try to show up in McLean County and start dumping people off. It would have banned local tax dollars going for that care. It did not pass, which he figured, but it didn't pass because it was a 10-10 split. It passed because it didn't pass because of 13-7. So 3 other Republicans decided, including the board chair, who's also a Republican serving in my district. She has answers. She has to have answers now. Every Republican on that board should have voted yes to pass this. It didn't go as far as Grundy County. Grundy County decided they were going to stop it in its tracks from even coming there. Now, federal government and federal regulations and rules oversee and supersede local control. So in the event that a federal law gets in place or federal traffic comes down and says, no, you can't do that, then we're basically subjected to the state and federal government, which we know is not going to happen. So McLean County, you could see a tick of numbers of migrants coming here to a small town, to Aerosmith, Colfax, Leroy, Gridley, Chenoa. They more than likely will be dropped off in Bloomington first, but Bloomington can't handle them either. They've already said, local leaders said that they can't handle them either. Nevertheless, Governor Pritzker is asking for more money through lawmakers to help with the migrant care because the federal government refuses to do their damn job and close the border. He's asking state lawmakers $160 million. $160 million. Where are you getting it, JB? Where's the money coming? You can't even fund pensions for Americans living in Illinois. But yet you want $160 million for immigrants who are not here legally. Got it. There's your priority. Chicago mayor, also another one, doesn't really have a clue what's going on. He's even worse than Lightfoot was. It's hard to imagine that being possible, but it is. He's another one that has enacted all the migrant support he can to a city. He has enacted more spending. I think Chicago pays somewhere in between 10 and 20 million a year just for migrants alone, and their city's overrun. So guess where they're coming down from? Chicago. They're coming to a local town near you. You got to be prepared. This situation is going to get worse this year. This year is going to be a make or break. If Biden or anybody else is elected, you will cease to see America as it is. I think there's signs that we have turned a corner, but this border issue is probably the most existential threat we have to our homeland. But yet we're spending billions of dollars on Ukraine's sovereignty because they're a democratic state. They're going to hold no elections this year for democracy. We're spending billions on their border safety to prevent it from being invaded by Russia, which is clearly going to happen regardless. We're spending money on Israel-Hamas war to defend Israel's border. But Democrats in Congress, they don't want to secure our border. And Speaker Johnson has done nothing to stop them from sending money. He just green-lighted more money for Democrats to spend in Ukraine again without as much as a single penny for the secure border. And he was chastised for it. Nevertheless, you You continue to have a uniparty control of screw the American people. We're doing things our way, and you're not going to stop us. And where that takes us this year, we don't elect Trump. It is going to be the end of the American experiment as we know it. No, that's conspiracy. You can't say that. We'll be fine. It's just a political cycle. Is it though? It's going to be worse. It's going to be worse. Now, every election is important. Every election is the most important one you can have, granted. But I really believe this is the most important election of our lifetime. It is. Bar none. We have to stop Biden and the Democrats from being reelected. Not just because of age, not because they're idiotic, but because they are doing this by design. They are purposely leading policies to flush American experiment down the drain. And they don't care. I fear for my kids' future. I don't know what kind of country they're going to live in. Are they going to live in a country like Russia where you get shot for having a different opinion? Where are they going to live in a country where, well, it's already happening here, but worse, they're going to be in prison or killed for having a difference of opinion? It's already happening here. We're no longer a constitutional republic. We are sliding off the edge of the cliff into a third world country because of what is happening at the border, because of what is happening at the gender policies of crushing kids, and you're destroying the nuclear family. It is a nightmare. Yes, one person can't stop and save this. It's going to take all of us to stand up and fight. And I implore all of us, like-minded individuals, if you want to save your country, stand up and do something about it. If you can't get out and vote, find somebody to come take you to vote. If you think that's not going to work because they'll just try to find a way to cheat, overrun the system. Make it a cheat-proof way of voting. Look, there's always going to be fraud. But if that's your excuse to just never vote because you think there's always going to be fraud, that's a losing strategy. And I'll tell you right now, you're never going to win elections having that mindset. You have to continue to vote and push. The other thing you need to do is run for offices yourself. If things are that bad in your area, run for local office. All politics is local. That's what Dan Bongino always says. All politics are local. It starts local. Make more of a difference on your part, and it will make a difference on a national level. We have leaders around our state that are making that fight happen, and they're taking it to Congress. They've been representatives here. They've been state senators here. Darren Bailey ran for governor. He's running for Congress. There are warriors and fighters running to save this country. We have to have a generational fight to save this country. Now, to get you a perspective, before I get to some of the comments and other talking points, you have to understand the numbers game. I know there's 8.5 million people that have come in over the course of the last 4 years. Trump's worst year was about 900,000, far and away better than the last 4 years. His worst year was not even close, right? I mentioned that earlier. But just a perspective of how bad it's gotten. Here it is. Here's a tweet from Bill Melugin. He's a reporter from Fox News. He's at the border telling us everything that's happening. Okay? Sources tell Fox there have been now 276,000 encounters at the southern border in December, the highest single month ever recorded. But you had Karine Jean-Pierre just tell you that it's going down. 269,000 people alone in September. That was the record in September. 276,000 in December, breaking the previous record. It's still being shattered, and this was when it was 3 days left in December. The new record includes over 230,000 Border Patrol apprehensions of illegal immigrants in December, as also the highest single month ever recorded by Border Control. We're now over 760,000 migrant encounters since October 1st, making the first quarter of fiscal year 2024 also the highest ever recorded. about the population size of Seattle. Again, tell me again, KJP, black lesbian, dumbest person ever to be a communications person. Do those numbers seem like they're going down? Because I couldn't tell. So you have an administration who doesn't care about the border, who gives no qualms whatsoever. Maybe if they saw their own footage, maybe if they saw the footage of the border, has Biden gone on the border? No, he went to the border on the other side of Texas that there weren't coming over. Has Harris come to the border? No. I've been to the border, and then she was interviewed about it, and they said, no, you've never been to the border. This is who they are. But if they've seen a video like this, maybe they would have a different feel, or actually just go down to the border like the Republican lawmakers have and firsthand see what the damage is causing. This is just a 30-second clip. Watch this.
Walk, no running, walk, no corran, no.
There's hundreds of millions of people, and there's hundreds of videos showing more. There's more people than that coming across. That's just a 30-second clip. It really... I don't know whether they think we're stupid or that they legit think that they're trying to make a better place by having so many more workers. I got one more clip to show you from another stupid ass idiot. He is your minority leader in Congress. Shouldn't even be close to Congress halls, but he nonetheless get out there and he speaks with his hands, like Ricky Bobby. He don't need to do what's do his hands. All right, so let's get to some of the comments here. I know we've got quite a few. The border issue is just off the charts crap. Biden is like, it's much better than expected. What a bunch of, yeah, there's no border security. There's been none since Biden stole office. Bring Trump back. Bring those mean tweens back. Yes, ma'am. Love her. That's why I married her. That butthole helped them cross over, gave them free crap, and treats illegals better than their own veterans that fought for our country. Absolutely. Yeah, she's speaking to middle schoolers like they're in kindergarten. It's great. It's good stuff. Yep, grab your popcorn because this is going to get worse. Absolutely. He can crap more money. Yeah, he hasn't gone to the border. He's too busy eating ice cream and shuffling off the bed. Yeah, he's 80 years old and he doesn't seem like it, does he? He's fit, more than fit. All right, so one more short clip of just your perspective of where Democrats are. And I've got some more talking points and I've got some more stuff with it, but hang tight. Here's a clip. So if you're not familiar, Hakeem Jeffries is the minority leader in the House. He talks with his hands. He never says anything remotely close to coherent. His uncle is, I think his uncle was the most racist person, and by and large, Hakeem is black. He's also stupid, not just because he's black, but he's a very stupid individual, and he's the minority leader in Congress. Why? Because you guessed it, he's well respected. So here he is saying that we should just let them in because we have principles. We're a nation of immigrants. Hakeem, we are a nation of legal immigrants. Legal. Yes, economic activity will be enhanced by workers because we need workers. But this isn't how we run a country, by having illegal people coming to the border. You have a country based on laws. You have to follow laws. Nevertheless, these are Hakeem Jeffries. This is his principles.
And any agreement related to the border should be reflective of two principles. One, that America is a nation of immigrants, and that will continue to give us our economic competitive advantage so that our country can continue to win the future. And any agreement, of course, should also uplift the principle that America is a nation anchored in the rule of law.
Yeah, we are. But your own liar in chief is not following the law. There's U.S. border code that states illegally here is a crime. You have to enter the country legally through the ports of entry. File for the right channels to be a United States citizen. There's a legal precedent. There's a law that states the process. It's flushed out in the Constitution. You have to come through the port of entry and file the right paperwork to be here legally. I have no problem welcoming people to come into our country. We are an exceptional country of opportunity. Not right now. We have zero resources to deal with the onslaught coming into our country. The numbers, the size of larger than New York, LA, Chicago combined coming across every year at this rate, we have no resources, no housing. They're just going to put them in schools. They're going to put them on football fields, put them in tent cities. But when they come to liberal cities, when they host tyrannical leaders such as communist China and California, shit in the street, no problem. Not here when Xi Jinping comes to visit. Nope. They have every intention of cleaning it up, just not for you. A double-barrel middle finger to the American people, except for China. They'll welcome China with a red carpet. Screw the American individual. That's where we're at. Okay, so I know Governor Pritzker asked for money. Immigration is sadly a weapon by the Democrats to stop conservatives from regaining power, to stop Americans from taking back our country. It's a weapon for them that they can continue to use. And it's not a crisis to them. It's a political weapon they can continue to use. And both parties are guilty of it. Both parties could have had a reform of immigration for decades now, and they've done nothing. But to suggest that this is just kicked down the road again and like, oh, it's a broken system. We were handed a broken system. No, we really weren't. Yes, they were still coming across in the Trump administration. But the Trump administration actually followed the law to the extent it was being followed. And you saw a dip, a massive dip in immigration coming across. Why? Because they utilized every policy they could to stop the flow of illegals coming into the country. The Democrats don't want to stop it. How many times do I have to make this clear to everybody, not just the like-minded individuals listening or watching? Everybody. They don't care. They want millions of people coming in this border, across the border every day, every year. They want it. They want to ruin America as it is because that gives them more power to hang on to and eradicate the conservative base. You have to stand up and stop it. Call your local leaders, call your representatives, call your senators, call your state lawmakers. Harass them at every way possible and tell them to stop the lawlessness. Close the border and stop it. That's the only way to stop. This administration has to be stopped. It has to. But nonetheless, here in Arizona, according to Hot Air, that's another news organization. Arizona, which they just elected a Democrat governor, Kari Lake lost the election. I don't know how she did, but the Secretary of State, who ran the election of her own doing, which should have been conflict of interest because she was Secretary of State at the time of her own election to fight against Kari Lake. She was allowed to run Secretary of State elections. Makes sense. She is now governor of the state of Arizona, and they are allowing non-citizens to vote in federal elections with a wink and a nod. Now, consistent with their own, here we go. A person must be a U.S. citizen in order to register and vote. A person who submits valid proof of citizenship with his or her voter registration form is entitled to vote in all federal, state, county, and local elections. The voter registration form otherwise must be sufficiently complete. A person is not required to submit proof of citizenship with the voter registration form, but failure to do so means the person will only be eligible to vote in federal elections, known as being a federal-only voter. Federal-only voters will become eligible to vote a full ballot in all state, federal, county, and local elections if he or she later provides valid proof of citizenship in the appropriate county recorder's office. Federal-only voters may use the federal voter registration form available here. So you must be a citizen to vote. Wink, wink. But if you don't fill out the paperwork in Arizona, you can vote federally. Just do so later on and give us the paperwork so you can vote the rest of the ballot down. You'll only be able to vote federal elections if you don't provide proof of citizenship. Sounds like a cool way to allow non-legals to vote. Just let them go. Hey, if you don't show proof, you can still vote federal. But if you show proof later, you can vote for all the elections in the state and local. Got it. Show proof, vote for all the elections. Don't show proof that you're a citizen. Vote for president anyway. It's fine. It's just fine. These people are idiots. Stop letting them run your state. Boggles my mind. I know I mentioned earlier that Texas seized the border back from the federal government, and they did. They blocked the federal governments, according to the justthenews.com. Texas National Guard have seized the control of property in a key crossing point and restricting access to Border Patrol. So they shut down Border Patrol's authority to oversee Eagle Pass, which is the majority of where the crossings are happening. They shut it down and it took over. So that's a good sign. In Texas, I disagreed with a lot of Governor Abbott's way of doing things on certain aspects, but he has been steadfast on the border, where the border is a federal policy. A federal policy. That means the federal government has to secure the border. That's its job. That's one of its only 3 jobs it's supposed to have, is secure the damn border. But you have states like Arizona, now as a Democrat stronghold, allowing access. Texas is fighting it. Florida is fighting it. Alabama's fighting it. Texas is overrun, but they're still finding a way to seize part of the border to themselves because they're making state policies to suggest they can start arresting and holding illegals crossing the border. They're doing all they can, but that is not their job. States can help at the National Guard level secure the border crossings, but it is up to the federal government. The federal government has more resources to do it. They should be the ones stepping in saying, yes, we will supply you everything. Instead, you have the federal government stepping in saying, you can't put those razor wires up because it's harming Border Patrol agents. It doesn't stop illegal immigration. Nope, it harms Border Patrol agents. That's where we are. That's where we're at. Beyond the actual criminality issues, when you have people you don't know coming into the country being terrorists, you have drugs coming across, you actually have idiots make stupid comments like Jerry Nadler. Jerry Nadler's fat ass has been in Congress too long in New York that he can't tell what he's going to say anymore, whether it's the truth or not. But nevertheless, he states, I can't, Thursday, if you don't allow illegal immigrants into this country, our vegetables will no longer be picked. This is a quote. Vegetables would rot in the ground if illegal immigrants weren't around to pick them up. How much more racist can you get? Like what? Dude. People who have a farm, people who have a garden, pick your own vegetables. They do it every day. But this dumbass sits there and says, well, if we don't have any illegals, who's going to pick our vegetables? there's so many more like this. I think Nancy Pelosi said something similar a couple years ago where she's like, well, if you don't have all these illegals coming in, who's going to pick the cotton? I'm sure Democrats will find a way. They'll just let those blacks back away and do it. They'll put the chains back on those blacks and they'll pick that cotton like they did 200 years ago. Man, oh man, oh man. Oh, just unnerving. I have no answers anymore. The only solution, really, at this point that I have, Trump needs to win. Yes, he's not the be-all savior. What Dan Bongino says, he says you don't vote person, you vote by principle. You don't pay any attention to the person behind the principle. You pay attention to the principle only and vote by principle. You have to vote for your principle. Trump is just one figurehead who has done the work to stop a lot of these issues. Now, is he going to stop all of it? No, absolutely not. Democrats will always, this is what Dan Bongino always says, Democrats are always the cause of your problems. And Republicans, although will not always have the answers, Democrats will always cause your problems. All of them. The only solution is to, right now, the first start would be to elect Trump. His policies worked on the border. He wasn't the most conservative on social issues, but he was probably by far the most pro-life president. But his border policies, the Remain in Mexico policy, the deportation policy of getting these people the hell out of the country, it worked. It slowed it down, and we were safer when he implemented those policies. His administration did a number of good things on the border. And to attest to this, before I get into the last part of wrapping up here, here's an ad that he ran recently. If this doesn't jack you up to go out and run through walls to vote for this man, I don't know what will. So here's a recent ad by Trump.
While the world burns, Joe Biden has created a violent threat in our own backyard. Biden's open border has opened the floodgates to record numbers, including terrorists, fentanyl traffickers, and raises the possibility of a Hamas attack. President Trump had our border secured, and he'll do it again by building even more wall and stopping people from terrorist countries from ever entering.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
That sends chills down my spine. All right. So there are some other housekeeping things I want to get to before I sign off. I know I wait about an hour. I usually try to stay about an hour. All right. So I have ideas for this year. I have more interviews coming. I know I had some guests the last part of last year, 2023. If you like those interviews, like those opportunities to show more guests aside from the solos that I do, let me know. I'm going to try to get some more opportunities to get more guests this year. It's a bigger year for me to try to get some more opportunities to grow the show even more. Doing so. Also, I'm going to throw it in the comments section, but I have a surprise that, well, it may not be a surprise to most of you, but I am in the middle of, I have built it. I have built my website, and I wanted to start implementing a way to streamline the content to where you don't have to just go to Spotify or wherever my podcasts. So you get the audio version on Spotify, Apple, Google, and on the Facebook. There's links everywhere. It's pretty easy to get to, but some people don't like all these fancy apps. They don't have maybe all access to Spotify. They don't maybe have all access to Apple. Apple Podcasts is free for the most part. You just find the podcast. I'm searchable there. Finally, now I can be searchable, but most of the content producers have some kind of streamlined way of getting to their content that wherever you are, you don't have to always have an app. So I put together a website. I've built it. I've shared it recently. It's a baseline for now, but there's the link. I'm working on a domain that will redirect, and it'll be an easier domain link to get to the page. But essentially, the audio form is going to be available. You'll go right to the page, and all the new content audio version will be there. You can listen to anywhere. You can also download the SuperPass app. That is also a thing. You can download that, and you can find my show. As far as video, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook. Rumble will not have lives yet because I have, at the moment, 3 places I can post lives to. And so Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter are the 3 lives that go up each live stream. But Rumble will be an option to see if you're on Rumble exclusively, because ScrewTube and Facebook are the worst, and eventually they may just boot me off as well. So those are the ideas I have. I have a question. You can throw it in the comments, or you can email me from the website. Get signed up. So you can get your email rolled in there. RyanMaxShow.superpass.io. A new domain is coming, so stay tuned. Also, coming soon, later this year, my own app where you can just download Ryan Max Show, and it'll be my logo right there at the top, that side. You can find it in one place. You want to download Spotify, you want to download Apple Podcasts if you have an iPhone, Google, whatever for Android. But that's where that's going to be, all in one place. Anything else that I'm thinking of? I don't think that's. So content. Now, when I was on the radio most of the last year, I was once a week on the weekends. I had a time slot from 2 to 3. So I just kept that consistency. I don't know if that's always the best slot to throw it in there. I've been kind of bouncing around a little bit and playing around with the schedule because more news happens every day than any other time and during the week. So I had thoughts on going maybe twice a week on set days, maybe 3 times a week on set days. I don't know what that looks like yet. So stay tuned for those updates. But yeah, so new website is up and running. Check it out. It's in the comment section if you want to see it after I go live. It's there. It's up on the banner there. You can also support the show so that I can continue to bring you the best content as much as I can. You can follow, share, like, subscribe to me on Facebook, on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, and you can support the show on Venmo. My Venmo is right down there at the ticker at the bottom there. Support the show. Lets me know in any other way you can bring content. Eventually might do maybe like a subscription base for certain things. If I bring interviews and guests on, I can do that. Just ideas. Let me know if you find the site and you can sign up and give me emails. Shoot me an email about content you want to see. If you think you have somebody in mind that I would try to bring on as a guest, I can do that. More open to anything. But now I want to get to sponsors because that's important. Those are the ones that pay for the content. And it helps me also. If you don't want to use Venmo, you don't want to follow that way, you can also buy some merchandise or some coffee. Blackout Coffee. Dan Bongino drinks it. He's sponsored by them. I've started drinking it about a year ago. Oh my gosh, you have no idea how much coffee makes me happy. And good coffee and great coffee that is fresh, right to your door, shipped only a day or 2 after they roast it. Blackout Coffee is a great company. They also care about your values as an American. They are a conservative coffee company. They give a portion of their sales to overseas veterans or overseas military. They send coffee overseas. They have just built a massive 7 times larger facility down in Florida where they're at to bring even more products to the floor. I'm an investor currently with Blackout Coffee. You should be too. Check them out. Blackoutcoffee.com. Use the promo code RyanM10 to get 10% off your first order. You can support the show that way as well. Also have 50 Shades of Fleece. Look, it's wintertime. I think this weekend is going to be flipping cold as hell. It's going to be so cold. Things are going to start falling off your body parts. I'm just going to keep it PG for the YouTubers out there. It's going to start falling off. So you need to find a fleece blanket, a tied homemade blanket from somebody who made it with love. That will be my wife. Follow her on Facebook, 50 Shades of Fleece. reach out to her for whatever order you want. She does blankets. She does any size you want and need. Baby blankets, sensory blankets, pillowcases, whatever you like that she can try to make you, she can do it. 50 Shades of Fleece. Find that group on Facebook. Follow it, share it, like it, buy a blanket, support the show. There we go. All right. So to end this off, thank you so much for coming on and listening to the episode. Let me know what you think in the comments. You can let me know any other way you want to. If it sucked, you can tell me it sucked. I won't be offended. I might cry later. To be honest, I might cry later. So let me know how you think in the comment section. Thank you so much for following and liking. I thought this episode was a huge one to bring to you guys because I finagled some things out with the video clips and having actual receipts of things Democrats say. It's important to call out what they are doing, and I will continue to bring those receipts every week or every opportunity I can to go live and bring you the content. So have a great rest of your night. See you next week or see you the next time I go live. Thank you so much for following and have a great one.